By the time I understood what she took, the app had already erased her. No chat, no photos, no last name, like she was never a match at all. I'm Dario, by the way, 33. I run the back half at a medic station in Pittsburgh, which is a polite way of saying I work nights while the rest of the city sleeps. We matched on a Tuesday. She went by Renee. One date, a late one, because my shift had just ended and I still smelled like the truck. We wound up at a Primente's downtown. It's the kind of place that piles the fries and the slaw right on the sandwich, and she laughed at me for eating it wrong. It was a good night. That's the part that still gets me. I walked her back toward my building after. I didn't take her up. I just pointed at it. Said, "That's me, the brick one with the garage. Stupid. I know that now." She unmatched me before I even got upstairs. I checked the app in the elevator and the whole thread was just gone. Her face gone. That little green dot gone. Tinder does that when someone unmatches. It wipes the conversation clean, both sides, like it never happened. I figured I'd said something wrong. Ate the sandwich wrong. Whatever. The thing is, I didn't think about her again for almost a week. Then the spare key was on the wrong hook. I keep 2 hooks by my door, one for the car, one for the spare. The spare lives on the left. It was on the right, such a small thing. I told myself I did it half asleep coming off a double. But then it was the car. I got in for a night shift and the passenger seat was pulled all the way up. I'm 6'2". I don't drive with the seat there ever. My knees don't fit. I sat in the lot for a minute just looking at it. Then it was the smell. 2 mornings later, coming down the back stairwell, there was perfume in it. Faint. Warm. That stairwell smells like concrete and bleach, always has, and that morning it smelled like a person had been standing in it. And look, I'm not a paranoid guy. In my job, you see the actual worst thing that can happen to somebody on a normal Tuesday, and you learn not to spin every shadow into a story. So I kept explaining it away. Then a neighbor's package showed up at my door. Wrong apartment, wrong floor even. I carried it up to the 4th floor and the guy there looked at me like I was the weird one. Here's where it stopped being nothing. My building runs the garage and the side doors off key fobs, and residents get an app that logs every entry. Time, door, fob number. I'd never once opened it. That night, bored on a slow shift, I did. There was an entry I couldn't place. Garage door, 3:40 in the morning, a Thursday, my fob number. I was on a call that Thursday at 3:40. A cardiac in Swissville, all the way across the Moan. I had a rig, a partner, and a running clock to prove it. My fob was in my jacket the whole time. I checked. It was still in my jacket while I stared at the log that said it had opened my garage. So there were 2 of them, the one in my pocket, and one more somewhere with my number on it. I took the log to the building office the next morning. I printed the whole thing out, and I circled the 3:40 entry, and I stood there while a woman in a polo shirt told me the system does that sometimes. A glitch. Fobs double read. She said it the way you say a thing you've already decided not to look at. That night my buzzer went off at 3 in the morning, the intercom by my door. I got up and pressed it and said hello into it twice and got nothing back, just the little open hiss of the line. Then it went off again 40 minutes later. Nobody buzzes a 4th floor apartment at 3 in the morning to leave. They buzz to see if you'll come down. I stopped answering the buzzer. I started sleeping in my work clothes, boots by the bed, because some part of me had already decided I might need to move fast. I started changing my patterns after that, different door every time. I stopped taking the garage. It didn't matter. I came home from a Sunday shift and my apartment door was open, not kicked in, just open, an inch. I stood in the hallway a long time before I went in. Nothing was taken. That's what I need you to understand. The TV, the laptop, all of it there. But on the kitchen counter, laid out neat, squared to the edge, was my spare key. And next to it, folded into a little triangle, was a napkin from Primente's. From the date from that night, she'd kept it, and she'd left it there so I'd know she kept it. I stopped sleeping. I'll be honest, I stopped sleeping for real, the way that starts to bend how you think. I couldn't tell you how many nights ran together in there. So I did the only thing I could come up with. I sat in the lobby. 3 nights. Coffee, a hoodie, the corner seat angled at the mailboxes. My building's got maybe 80 units, people in and out all hours. Nobody looks twice at a tired guy in the lobby. The 3rd night she walked in. Renee, except she had a resident fob in her hand, and she went straight to the wall of mailboxes like she'd done it 100 times, and she opened one. I said her name, just Renee. She turned around and looked at me with nothing in her face at all. Not fear, not recognition. She said, "I think you've got the wrong person," and she said it kind, the way you talk to somebody who's confused. I went to the front desk. I said, "That woman does not live here." They pulled up the tenant list. There's no Renee. The mailbox she opened is rented under a set of initials and a company name. And I had nothing to show them. No photo, no messages, no last name. The app had erased her the same night I met her. On paper, I was just the guy in the lobby bothering a resident. Management reissued my fob. They admitted, quietly, that a duplicate credential had been active on my unit for about 6 weeks. They couldn't tell me who made it. They changed my lock. I was gone by spring anyway. But here's the thing I can't put down. They reset the fob. They rekeyed the deadbolt. My old spare key, the one from the counter, I got that one back. It's the other one I think about. The copy. The one I never saw that opened my garage at 3:40 in the morning while I was doing chest compressions across the river. I changed every lock I could change. The one I couldn't change is the one she's still holding.
I spent years making sure no date knew where I slept. That was the one rule. Meet in public always, separate cars. Nobody sees the house until I decide, and I never decided. So I still can't tell you how one of them ended up with a key to my door. I'll call myself Yesenia. I'm a counselor at an elementary school here in Albuquerque, which means I spend all day reading kids who are trying to hide something, and I'm good at it. That's the part that stings. I read people for a living. Grant was the careful one. Most guys on those apps want to see your place by the second message. Grant was the opposite. On our first date, he asked if I felt safe walking to my car. He asked if my building had good lighting. He seemed genuinely bothered that a woman even has to think about that. The thing he really couldn't let go of was my lock. I'd mentioned offhand that my deadbolt was old, that you had to jiggle the key. He got quiet about it. Then he sent me an article. Then another. "Old locks are how people get hurt," he said. "Just let me help." He ordered a smart lock. Paid for it himself, wouldn't hear otherwise. And on our 3rd date, he showed up with a screwdriver and put it on my door while I stood on the step. And this part matters, he never came inside. He installed it from the hallway, handed me my new codes like a gift. He added his phone too, just as a backup, he said, so you're never locked out at midnight with no way in. It made sense. Honestly, it sounded like the most thoughtful thing a man had ever done for me. We fizzled out about a month later. No drama, he just faded. Then, on a Tuesday in the fall, I was making dinner and my front door unlocked itself. I heard it, that little motor sound, the bolt sliding back. I'd been standing at the stove with a pan of green chili going, the whole place smelling like Christmas, and the door just unlocked. I checked the app. There it was. Unlock mobile key 6:40 in the evening. I hadn't touched my phone. I deleted his access that night, sat on the floor and went through the settings and pulled his name off and felt stupid for ever adding it. 2 days later, the app showed a new entry. He'd reauthorized himself from a paired device. You can do that, apparently, if you were ever an admin. The app treats it like you belong. I changed the code. It held for a day, then the old code worked again. The worst one came while I was at work. I was in my office with a third grader who wouldn't talk, doing the slow, patient thing you do, when my phone lit up on the desk. Unlock, front door, 11:15 in the morning. I was 19 minutes from my house with a child in front of me who needed me not to react. I sat through the rest of that meeting with my hands folded, smiling, asking my little questions. And the whole time, all I could see was my own front door standing open, sunlight coming into a hallway I wasn't in. When I got home, nothing was disturbed. That was almost worse. He didn't need to take anything. He just needed me to know he could be there whenever the mood took him, while I was somewhere across town being calm for somebody's kid. And the whole time, my own kitchen started to feel different at night. I'd stand at that stove, same green chili, same pan, and I'd catch myself watching the door instead of the food. I told myself he was doing it remotely, from wherever he was. A screen thing, an app thing, not a real thing. Then my downstairs neighbor set me straight over the fence. She's older, waters her garden every evening, Mrs. Nothing. She said, "Oh, tell your boyfriend the side gate sticks." And I said, "What boyfriend?" And she said the tall one saw him wrestling with that gate late the other night. Tuesday, I think. Must have been 2 in the morning. I almost said something. Tuesday, 2 in the morning. I was home that Tuesday, alone, asleep behind the new code I thought I'd changed. He hadn't been doing it from a screen. He'd been standing at my side gate in the dark while I slept, close enough that a woman watering her tomatoes saw his face. I don't remember what I said back to her. Something normal, probably. I just remember walking inside and looking at that door like it belonged to somebody else. I finally called the police. They were kind. They took it more seriously than I expected. They pulled the lock's history with me right there, all of it, dozens of entries stretching back weeks. Unlocks at hours I was asleep, unlocks when I was at work. And then the officer got quiet in a way I recognized. It's the way I get quiet with a parent when the news isn't going to be what they want. He said, "Ma'am, I have to be honest with you. On paper, you gave this man a key. You added him yourself. Legally, that's not a break-in. It's a guy using a key he was given." There was a witness. There was a record a mile long. And there was nothing anyone could charge because I had installed him myself, one thoughtful favor at a time. I took the lock off the door with my own hands. With his screwdriver, actually, the one he left behind. Put the old jiggly deadbolt back on, the one nobody can hack because it doesn't know how to talk to anybody. And then I sat with it, went back through the whole thing, start to finish. The lock, the offer to set up my Wi-Fi so it'd reach the bedroom. The "let me add you to my streaming so you're covered." The "he never came inside, not once," that I'd told myself was respect. It wasn't respect. He never needed to come inside. I kept handing him the keys and calling it kindness. And the part that scares me most is I'd probably have handed them over again, because every single thing he did looked exactly like someone being good to me.
So I did everything you're supposed to do. I sent my buddy the address. I screenshotted her profile and sent that too. I told him if I wasn't out by 11, come find me. He came. It was the wrong building. I'm not putting my name on this one. Not because I'm embarrassed anymore, I got past that, but because the guy it happened to doesn't really exist now, and I don't want him back. I was 29. Nights at a parts warehouse outside Little Rock. Her name on the app was Kayla. She had the little verified check, and she moved fast in a way that felt like luck instead of what it was. First date was normal. Coffee, then a walk down by the river market, cheese dip after, and no, before anybody starts, it's cheese dip, not queso, not down here. We'll fight you on that one. It was a good date. She was funny. I wore my Razorbacks hat and she gave me grief for it, and it felt easy. She wanted the second one at her place. Dinner she'd cook. I mean, I want you to know I hesitated. I'm not the guy who ignores the feeling. I texted Bo the whole plan exactly like they tell you to, and I went anyway. The first thing wrong was the door. There was a lockbox on the knob. One of those little gray combo boxes. the kind you see on a rental or a house that's between people. Her apartment and the door had a lockbox on it. And when I looked through the front window, the place was empty. Not messy empty. Empty like nobody lived there. One suitcase against the wall. No mail, no shoes by the door, no life in it at all. I almost turned around. I swear I was turning around. Then a voice from inside said my name. Warm, easy, come on in, it's open. And something in me overrode the rest of me and I went in. The deadbolt behind me was the kind keyed on both sides. I know that now because I heard it turn. You need a key to get back out of a door like that. She'd locked us in and I heard it and I told myself it was normal. The woman standing in the kitchen was not the woman from the profile. Close, same hair kind of, but not her. And she smiled at me like we both already knew that. Then a man came out of the back room. He wasn't in a hurry. That's the detail that still wakes me up. He came out slow, wiping his hands on a towel like I was a delivery he'd been expecting. I'm not going to walk you through the whole thing. Some of it I don't have in order anymore, honestly. It comes back in the wrong sequence. But here's the piece I do have. I made it to the bathroom and got the door shut, and there was a window over the toilet and it was painted shut. Layers of it. I'm digging at the paint with my thumbnail, tearing it, and behind me, through the door, I could hear him. He wasn't yelling, he wasn't kicking it. He was setting something metal down on the counter, slow and deliberate, one small clink so that I would hear it. I went through that window, glass and all, 2 floors down onto a dumpster and then the ground. My hand was laid open from the wrist down. I didn't feel it yet. I was just running, no shoes, one of them still up in that apartment. I ran until I hit a road with cars on it and I stood in the lane and made one stop. A guy in a work truck. I must have looked like exactly what I was because he didn't ask a single question. He just told me to get in, locked the doors, and drove. At the hospital, they put my hand back together with a row of stitches I lost count of. A patrol officer sat with me while they worked. He'd already been to the apartment. He told me 2 things I've kept ever since. The first was that the deadbolt was keyed on both sides, which is not a thing you do by accident. The second was that the one suitcase in the front room was packed and standing by the door, like whoever it belonged to had never planned to stay the night either. And here's the part that took the floor out from under me later. Bo was already there. Bo had my screenshot, Bo had the address, Bo did it exactly right. But he was standing outside a building 2 doors down, on the phone with 911, because the address she gave me was off by a single number. A vacant unit. A staged apartment in a building where nobody was home. The place I ran out of was a short-term rental, booked under a name that led nowhere. And Kayla's profile, the real one, the verified one I'd screenshotted, was deleted within the hour, like it was on a timer. They picked somebody up months later, a couple counties over. I didn't ask what for. I didn't want the details to turn into a story I tell. The hand is enough. The hand healed, by the way. There's a scar, but it works fine. I can make a fist. I can do my job. That's not the part that didn't heal. I used to be the guy who gave people the benefit of the doubt. Genuinely. I thought that was a good way to be. I did everything right that night. I told a friend. I sent the profile. I trusted the little verified check and the plan and the rules. And right didn't matter because the whole thing was built by somebody who knew the rules better than I did. I don't trust a face anymore. Any face. I hate that about who I am now, and I can't get the old version back. That guy, the one who gave people the benefit of the doubt, he didn't make it out the window. Only I did.